My name is David Haughney and I'm a sergeant and I'm stationed in Middleton, County Cork, and the branch of AGC would be Cork North. To tell you my story and the incident and where it all began was on the 14th of December, and that was 2014. I was out in a patrol car with another member, John Tarrant, and there was a second call came in for an incident in Youghal, and we were out. We said we'd help out. There had been a lot of burglaries in the area, so we said we'd go. And it took us a while to find the location, but we found it. Going down country roads, not really too familiar with us. It was dark, it was nearly midnight. And we came across two guys that we know quite well, and while dealing with them, and we saw up ahead a car pull in, and it seemed to react to us being there, and it started to turn around and reverse. So I was actually driving, so I went ahead, left the two at the side of the road and went ahead, realized who they were, and they were well known to us, and decided to check them out. But as soon as we started to do that, they tried to get away. But by doing that, they were driving at us. I hemmed them in with the car, and John Tarrant got out, and we knew once we got out and realized that this is going to be awkward, because there was a few in the car and yet the other two back the road who were all part of the one family. And from the outset, there was aggression and no positive response from them, even though we did know him, knew him by name. So it was aggression from the word go with them. And in an effort to defend ourselves, battens, the ass baton was used to try and keep him back, to stop him driving off. OC spray was deployed, again, totally in accordance with, I'm an ass baton and OC instructor, and it was textbook stuff, I'd like to think, at the time. But the level of aggression just got higher and higher, and it was literally, we were fighting for ourselves very quickly. Even though we'd called for help, we knew where we were. It was going to take quite a while. Again, there was a limited response to the OC, but what it did is two of them in particular retreated, but when they retreated, they came back, but this time with stones, while we were still dealing with some that were in the car. And we could hear the stones hitting the car, hitting glass, clearly damaging. I was trying to see where they were coming from, just without warning. I remember getting this thud in the head, and I didn't for a while know what it was. I just knew it wasn't good. The only thing I could think of, and it wasn't anything poetic or grand to say, but it was as simple as, John, I'm gone. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know whether I was dying, passing out, what. It was a horrible moment, but for quite a while I didn't know what was going on. First things I can remember when I came to a little bit was the pain. It was excruciating pain. It was around my eye, but my head, my entire head. And the other thing that I kind of remember very much about that was I couldn't see properly, and it was kind of half dream world almost. And it was kind of, am I dreaming this? Is this real? Did this happen to me? Did I actually go down after being hit by the rock? What? You know, and it was fairly confusing. The thing I can remember first, and it was the first nice thought, was I can remember John Tarrant standing over me. He had the ass drawn, and he was literally keeping some of them back and protecting me. It was a great feeling to be so well protected, despite the fact that they were still throwing stones, and I could hear the stones banging and pinging and breaking stuff all around us in the car. I just wanted it to end or wake up, or it was a very confusing time. But the fact that you can't see is quite honestly terrifying. You depend so much on your eyes, and it's only until you lose your sight or it's threatened that you realize that. They were still trying to start their car to get away because I had pinned them in, and I'm not a small chap, and John managed to pull me back out of the way while still keeping them away because they were intent on causing more damage. Some of the group did go away in the car, but one of them was left. They previously had some argument among themselves, which was the original nature of it. And when they did go away, I did feel complete and utter relief. I thought, yeah, I might just get through this one. But John got me up, put me in the car, and reassured me. And that part, again, things like that stick in your head a lot. And I remember being in the car, and he was still talking on the radio. I knew what was going on, but it was a bit hazy. And at this stage, my eyes were closed, both eyes, and I couldn't see, but I could hear everything. And I could hear some people from the nearest house had come out to see what was going on, and they said they're coming back. And I was in no fit state to even defend myself in any way, shape, or form at this stage. But they had come back to collect the last chap that was there, and they did. But for those seconds while he was there and they were still there, it was because you're totally vulnerable. And John was taking the brunt of it at this stage, and he had received quite a good few rocks and been physically assaulted as well during that time. I felt I was of no good to him, and I was totally dependent on him. But they went, thankfully, and what happened afterwards was basically a major Garda operation to get them and get them under, to arrest them. It took probably in the region of 15 to 20 minutes for the next crew to arrive. And again, if anyone works in the country, they'll understand that was a quick response, and they were there quickly, and it was so good to have them there. But again, a point I can absolutely and utterly remember in this is that time, the first thing I said, I don't want to be blind, I don't want to be blind. And because that was already starting to kick in, and I had my eyes closed because of blood and pain and swelling at this stage, and both eyes were closed. I remember putting out my hand, and somebody held my hand, and it was, the man that was looking after me all the time, and it was one of the most reassuring things, So some of the most basic, simple things really count on things like that. Everything after that, the ambulance crew were pretty quick. As it happened, we know them because a good interaction between them. And again, they were a credit. They were great. At this stage, though, I was, they stripped off all my PPE because I had all my gear on the way I should have. But I was starting to vomit quite a lot from the head injury, and it took quite a while to get that under control, and a long time back to CUH, which is a considerable distance away. Again, everyone I met in terms of the emergency services that night in the hospital, the ambulance crew, our own, were excellent, supportive, helpful, just nice and kind. And it was, the initial experience is obviously not so good, but everybody I met afterwards was great. And it really, again, it does stand out, and they're the kind of things that stick in your head about what people need when something horrible goes wrong. The human touch, the genuine show of concern, all of that makes a massive, massive difference. And thankfully, they're the things that stick in my head more than the actions of a few. When I got to CUH and I was taken into accident emergency, and straight away they knew that it was a serious enough head injury. And as it turned out, I had a fractured skull and the eye socket fractured as well. The swelling had really kicked in at this stage, and my eye was so swollen that it was wedged shut. It was nearly 7 days before they could physically look at my eye because the swelling was so bad that you couldn't pull up the eyelid to look at it. Again, everything about the hospital was great. I was never put under any pressure. They were very supportive, very helpful. I was vomiting a lot, and it's not very dignified, and you feel, but again, these are the kind of things I was reassured and told not to worry about it. You'll be fine. And again, reassurance constantly. When they did get to open my eye, because they were checking on regular basis, they realized that there was some serious damage to the actual eye. Now, they didn't tell me at the time, which I'm glad of, that there was a possibility of losing my eye. But I have a reduction of about 75% in vision. But the way it is affected, what's left then is it's similar to age-related macular degeneration. Basically, it alters the way you see things, as in it's not as clear-cut. Even colours are perceived differently. They're much lower quality of colour. So I know there's something on my left. I can make out basic stuff, but not reading and things like that are out of the question. Later, I got plenty of care for injuries, but as a result, even a year later, I developed a cataract in the eye. So even the 25% was in danger. So I had to get an operation for cataracts, which was trauma-induced as well. So in terms of every day since, obviously eyesight is such a major thing. Simple tasks can be quite awkward or get tiring because I'm really depending on my right eye, which thankfully is quite good, but it does put strain on it. And that strain then, in conjunction with the injury, causes a lot of headaches. So headaches and just poor vision are the two most ongoing factors, I suppose, in relation to the injury. In relation to how I was treated by the organisation and individuals afterwards, I am very anxious to stress how good it was, and out of something negative, definitely positive things can come. And it's a thing that some people mightn't necessarily or understand, but the fact that I was visited in hospital by people in uniform stood to me, it was very, very important to me. The sense of being part of the group, very, very important. My chief came, my super came, every inspector came, and some guys that I work with on a regular basis, it was just brilliant to see, and it really made me feel better. Of course, the black humour was introduced in the hospital very quickly, and again, it made light of it, but in a nice, supportive way, and I totally understood what they were doing, and that was brilliant. From the outset, I felt understood, appreciated, and very much supported. When I was off sick, recuperating, and even though it was only a short time later, I was invited to the station for events. I was brought out for coffee by everyone and anyone. In fact, I've had more coffee in that time than ever before, but people constantly supported, constantly rang, looking, are you okay? Do you want to go out for coffee? And again, those kind of things I think matter more. You can go to counselling, which I did, and that was good, but it's individuals that you know and see every day. It's when they help out and support you. You can't put a price on how good and how valuable that is. And I was always made feel part of it still, even though I wasn't at work, but I was always kept up to date on how things are going. I did get a lot of letters from people who I hadn't seen in years. I got well wishes from people I didn't even know. It's amazing how much that means to you, that people kind of understand what you do and why you do it, and can see the bigger picture of why Gardaí are out there. And I would like to think that people deserve that support. So they were kind of everyday stuff. But then when I did come back to work, I came back to work as quick as I could, I found that it didn't stop. The support didn't stop. They understood that, unfortunately, I had lost a lot of vision. I did suffer from headaches, but the support didn't stop, and it kept going in very practical ways. And there are several people who stood out in relation to this and continue to do so to this day. And the sergeant who works with me, Adrian O'Masney, in a totally practical way, has completely and utterly looked after me. Inspector Healy in Middleton Station as well. He's looked after me. You know, everybody has been very good. My previous superintendent, the current superintendent, everybody has kept it going. It hasn't just stopped. They know I have certain interests within the job, and I'm passionate about them, and they've given me opportunity to keep going in those areas, and accommodated me in every way. You know, I would really like to stress that the experience I've had has been very, very positive. And I go back to it again, you know, out of negative things, good things come. On the practical levels, as regards AGSI, they came up the trumps, you know, and financial is going to be a worry when you first get injured. The insurance, yeah, it really was necessary, vital, and very much appreciated, because at that time, all your bills, you're paying out all the time. And right down to medical aid. I think people don't appreciate some of the more common everyday stuff until it happens yourself again. Medical aid, excellent. There are individuals up there who actually happened to be down in Cork and came to meet me, and they're civilians. And again, you know, things like that, you can't put a price on. They are excellent, and they do make you feel better about yourself and about your situation. And it's a lot easier to accept the situation I found myself in and how it came about, you know. So a lot of positives, basically. I would like to get across that, a lot of positives. I would like to think that the experience I've had in terms of how I was supported at every stage, during the incident, after the incident, my recuperation, my return to work, my continuing at work, would be exactly what the job could consider as a blueprint of how to proceed. I feel I'm contributing. I have had a much better experience and much more to offer the job as a result of the way I've been treated. If people are treated well and looked after and continue to be looked after in practical sense, it does make a difference. I want to contribute more positively as a result. Organisations are made up of individuals, but it's individuals have the choice to do something or not. I was extremely lucky that there wasn't a single individual that didn't step up to the mark and help me out in every way, shape and form, from the initial support to a visit in hospital, to a phone call, to a text, to going out for coffee, to the more practical stuff when I returned, and the Adrian Lemassneys of the world, you know, who does it on an ongoing daily basis. That's the difference. Individuals have a choice. They can help. You can blame organizations. You can suggest an organization is better, but it all boils down to the individual, regardless of what rank. They have a choice whether to contribute to somebody's recuperation and recovery and their ongoing position and commitment in the job. And definitely, I have found that the more positive support you give somebody, you get it back. I would like to think I give it back, and I enjoy the situation I'm in now. John Tarrant, he's doing fine. He is one of those people who never sought any acknowledgement for what he did. What he did was heroic, and I do think it should be acknowledged more so than just me saying it. Anyone who knows the guy, he understates all his efforts on that night. And clearly, strong bond with John Tarrant. I feel I owe him a lot, even though he would never even hint at anything like that. He's doing well. He recovered. He got plenty of injuries that night. Thankfully, they weren't as serious. But anyone who knows John Tarrant, John just plows on, keeps the head down, keeps going. So he's doing well.